Okay, so let's dive right in. I mean, we're all using AI writing assistants now, right? Whether it's for an email, a report, or a school paper. And they make our writing sound so polished, so professional, so sophisticated. But here's the thing. Is that sophistication ours? Or are we just borrowing it for a moment? That's the puzzle we're going to try and solve.
And that really gets to the core question, doesn't it? When ChatGPT suggests some complex new word and you drop it into your essay, have you actually learned that word? Or did you just kind of rent it for that one sentence? The answer here has huge implications for how we think about learning in this new age of AI.
Yeah, this really gets to the heart of the matter. On one side, you've got performance. Sounding sophisticated, borrowing words, basically nailing the assignment in the short term. But on the other side, you've got real learning. That's when you're actually becoming sophisticated, acquiring those words for good. One is just for show, but the other, that's the real deal.
So a lot of researchers are getting worried that AI is creating this illusion of competence. On the surface, it looks great. Student writing is improving, the vocabulary is better. But is the student actually getting better, or are we just hearing the machine's echo? We've got to look past that shiny surface to see what's really going on.
And this brings us to a really great metaphor that the researchers used. Is AI a cognitive scaffold or a lexical crutch? And just think about that for a second. A scaffold helps you build something that can stand on its own long after you take the scaffold away. But a crutch, that's something you become dependent on. You take it away and you stumble. So the big question became, which one is AI?
Okay, so to get to the bottom of this, researchers designed this really clever experiment to kind of peek behind the curtain. They weren't just interested in the final, polished essay. No, they wanted to see the whole process, and more importantly, what was actually left in a student's memory weeks down the line.
And the way they set this up was just brilliant. Look at this timeline. First, they get a baseline, a summary with no AI. Then, a week later, another summary, but this time using ChatGPT. But here's the absolute key. They put in a 2-week delay, no contact. That gap, that's where the magic happens, because it's designed to separate what you remember for a minute from what you've actually learned. The final test in week 6 shows what truly stuck around.
All right, let's make this real. We're going to look at a specific student from the study, a guy named Jahed. And this is the exact prompt he fed to ChatGPT after he wrote his first draft. Notice he's not asking it to write for him. He's just asking for help leveling up his vocabulary. I mean, this is pretty much exactly how a lot of us use these tools, right? And here's what's so interesting about what happened next. The AI suggested despondent instead of sad and repudiate instead of refuse. Jahed accepted both. But check this out. He didn't just blindly copy everything. He actually rejected one of the suggestions. He felt indulgent intoxicants was just too long. So he was thinking he was engaged. The question is, did that engagement actually translate to learning? Okay, so to solve this mystery of who's learning and who's just borrowing, we need a key piece of evidence, a kind of theoretical detective tool. We need a way to measure the quality of that interaction, not just the final product.
And it's this thing called the involvement load hypothesis. Now, that sounds complicated, but the idea is actually super simple. You don't learn things by accident. It takes mental effort. The more you're forced to really think about a word, its meaning, its context, whether it even fits, the more likely it is to stick in your brain. This is our key for unlocking the whole thing.
So this hypothesis says that effort breaks down into 3 steps. First, need. Do I actually need a better word here? Then search. You actively look for one. And then the most important part, evaluation. You actually have to think about the options and decide which one works best. That's what Jahed did when he rejected the AI's suggestion. But was it enough?
All right, we've got the setup, we've got our detective tool. Now, it's time for the big reveal. Let's look at the results and finally see who the real learners are and who the temporary borrowers are.
So let's circle back to Jahed. Remember him? After that 2-week cool-down period, after all that time for forgetting to set in, what did he actually remember from his chat with the AI? This is the moment of truth.
And wow, the results are really, really fascinating. The words he already knew, like inheritance, no problem, perfect recall, no surprise there. But look at the AI words. It's like he had a ghost of an understanding. He could use despondent in a new sentence, but when asked, he couldn't define what it meant. For repudiate, he could define it, but then he made a grammar mistake trying to use it. The words never fully became his.
And when they zoomed out to look at all 10 students in the study, this wild pattern emerged. People basically fell into one of 3 camps. You had these scaffolding users who genuinely learned and used the new words later. You had the hybrid users, who were a mix, but the biggest finding, the one that really stands out, was the largest group, the prosthesis group. Get this, a full half of the students were just borrowers. The fancy words they used with the AI? Poof, gone 4 weeks later. For them, the tool wasn't a scaffold at all. It was a crutch, and as soon as it was gone, they were right back where they started.
So what's the big takeaway here? Well, it points to something pretty profound, and honestly, a little worrying. The researchers call it the invisible failure.
So in this study, 60 to 70% of the new vocabulary that AI helps students use just vanished from their brains. Think about that. That's the massive gap between what it looks like they know and what they actually know. It's huge.
And this right here, this quote just nails it. The real danger isn't that we're using AI. The danger is this invisible failure, where it looks like students are making all this progress, but really, they're just becoming more dependent. The failure is happening, but you can't see it.
So when you boil it all down, what's the crucial point? It's not about the AI. It's about how you use the AI. If you actively engage with it, if you question it, if you evaluate it, you're going to learn. But if you just passively copy, you're just going to forget.
And that brings everything right back to you, doesn't it? The next time an AI suggests a word that makes you sound smarter, what are you going to do? Just click accept and move on? Or are you going to take that extra second to really think about it, to understand it, and to make it a real part of your vocabulary? Because at the end of the day, you're the one who decides. Is it a scaffold or is it a crutch?